keep, and lift. This is a football. This is the basic work that we do. And so we try to do tactics that fulfill all four of those things. Maximum donor involvement is this diagram. It looks kind of funky. Looks like kind of like high school science, some molecule or something, you know. But the idea of it is that it starts with the new donor. You get the first gift, and actually, you know, to do it right, you would almost want to add a circle to the left, and you'd want to write new names. And then you're trying to get new names to become new donors. Well, you're going to do that through some different types of communication. And then new donors aren't really very invested. They've given once. So you're going to have some special things you're going to try to do to get a second gift. And then you're going to continue to get gifts from those donors using various strategies: direct mail, mailing people, letters, and you could also include phone and social media and things like that would be big there. Then there's a pledge program, which is a way of getting more gifts from people, more consistent gifts from people. And sometimes there are development events that you might do, like banquets. Key donors in the Palau definition. In the Palau definition, key donors is people that give $1,000 or more a year. And so we do more customized communication with them. And then, as I mentioned the other day, $5,000 plus is major donors. And sometimes you'll have the circle that says capital gifts, means like you might have a special initiative like Steve Wingfield has right now with this building and facility. That's a capital project. Some of you might need some equipment or need an office. Those are capital projects that you can put in front of people. And then planned giving is a USA strategy where the tax code will reward people for including charities in their estate plan when they die. If you give some of your estate to charity, the tax system will reward you for that. And so that's another opportunity. You know, that's kind of at the very end of this pipeline. Mike?
So just a quick question for Tim and I. A lot of our donors
Yeah.
are older,
Yeah.
and I have no clue how to do planned giving. I'm not asking you to go into it now, but is that something you could, maybe at another time back in Oregon, help us
Yes.
with? How do we maybe set up as a team?
Yep.
For our
Most
older
definitely.
donors? Okay.
I can help you with that. You're absolutely right, though. That does not need to be your focus like right now. But if you have older donors, there are some things that you can do to even just remind them that including E-Team Global in their estate plan would be a wonderful way for them to perpetuate their values of evangelism in this life. So you don't have to be a attorney or legal expert to move the ball with planned giving. So before we wrap up here, I want to touch on 6 development building blocks. And one of these was one that I promised I was going to talk about in the first session, I think, and that is receipt solicitation. I did some analysis, this was a while back, from Palau, that showed that we were raising almost as much money from receipts coming back in as we were from all the responses to all the mailings that we were sending out. In other words, a powerful, well-designed receipt package can be something that God can use to stimulate people to give again. So the gold standard on receipts is that they go out the door within 24 hours of when you receive the money. And the old adage was, think before you bank. That's
good.
That's rare. Not many people, I think, do that, but you know, we do. I think we're probably within 24 to 48 hours. So 9 objectives for the receipt. Thank people effectively. To keep the donor. So this is not a win strategy, right? Receipt solicitation can only be done once people have already started giving, okay? So this is a keep strategy mostly. Frequency. There are people out there that are chronic donors, we call them. And literally, like, I don't know if I could find it fast enough, but you know, I put that giving level frequency report in here. I'm just so curious now, I gotta find it. You know, so like on this report, you don't need to look at it, but it shows how many gifts people gave. There are 182 people at Palau that gave 13 gifts or more to the ministry.
In a year.
In a year, yeah. So that's about 5% of our total donors gave 13 plus times a year. And what I would call these chronic donors are people that they send a gift, you send a warm thank you back. They get all excited because they liked what they did on the warm thank you, they'll send another gift in. You send them a thank you back. They get excited again, they send a gift in. You know, I mean, there are people out there that respond that way. So, so frequency, you can increase the number of gifts by sending a prompt good thank you. A lift, there's only 2 ways to lift, more money or more gifts, so this can lift. You should bless your donors, you should inform your donors, you should bond with your donors. You should give them a reason to give again, not a request, but a reason. Here's kind of how to differentiate that. You know, you're giving away school backpacks in Portland. Okay, this is your ministry. Your gift provided 10 backpacks, and this year we were able to provide 500 backpacks. We are so grateful for what God's doing. There are 2,000 kids in Portland that need backpacks, and so we thank God for your partnership to help us begin to make a difference there. There's 2,000 that need backpacks. We're doing 500 and you did 10. There's a reason for them to give again. Do you see how there's a reason? Because there's still a need out there. So we communicate reasons. And then a trigger. Trigger would be to facilitate their next gift. And so we always send a reply envelope and a document that they can send back. 12 elements of receipts. And I stole these from my friend Bill. And he's a pastor, so they all start with A. So acknowledgement. You acknowledge the gift. You include the amount. You include applause, which is the thank you. You express appreciation. It includes the activity, what the gift was used for, and the application, what the gift was applied to specifically. So the activity, like if it's, let's say it was, the activity could have been for our Portland Festival, and the application was they wanted their gift to go for follow-up literature for the Portland Festival. So both of those would be referenced. The achievement, what their gift is accomplishing. The accountability would be an expression of stewardship, like we're in this evangelical council for financial accountability, so we make sure we put that logo on every one of our receipts that go out. Advertise the great work that's happening, activate their next gift, the address that they would send their next gift, and now we've of course added like web, how they can give online in addition to mailing a gift. And we put their name, appellation, he was reaching on that
That's
one.
funny.
So look at your receipt package. If you even have a receipt package, if you don't have a receipt package, you could use some of the elements that the Palau one has. And that is in the notes here, right after the lecture outline, I believe. I threw in a sample. So this first is just the actual receipt copy itself. And so this folds in half. And actually, one of these, it's a window envelope is what we use, and so one of these little address blocks actually drives the letter. So we're driving the letter off of that. So it's got the amount, it's got the fund, so that's where it specifically went. One of the things that we do that I think is quite good is you'll notice the little part where it says your 2013 giving, and it's all lined up like that. We call that showing their monthly continuity of their giving. And there are people that intend to give you a gift every month. And so if there's a hole and they notice that, they might make a gift to make it up. So we're making it easy for them to see that.
How long have you done, my eye caught that. How long have you been doing that for years?
Not forever, but I obviously was doing it in 2013. Because that's the year that the gift, this receipt was the sample. I didn't do a fresh sample. But yeah, I haven't been doing that forever. But I've been doing it for like 5 or 6 years at least. And I think that helps. So yeah, I'm just looking to see, do I have on here? I don't know if I'm gonna have the, I've got our website on there, and you can hardly read it. It just says palau.org, but it doesn't say anything about online. Oh yeah, it does have
Yeah,
online giving on the back.
Backside.
That's kind of buried, so I'd try to elevate the visibility of that. If you keep flipping, you'll see the thank you letter. So we're grateful, so we're expressing appreciation. The thank you's there, the amount's there, the fund's there. There's millions of people around the world who've yet to fully understand what it means to be in a relationship with Jesus Christ. There's a reason. We just gave them a reason to give again. We're talking about the upcoming activities of the ministry. And then we like to include a testimony. So the next item is a printed testimony that we would include in the receipt package. Those stories are powerful. You think that's going to bless the donor and keep the donor? I think so.
Do you change these monthly?
Every month, yeah.
Do you view these some electronically, or is it all receipts?
Good question, Mike, yeah, that
This
was
is
something
all
you
this
brought up.
material
Yeah, this is
that-
all electronic, and I am not, happy with, kind of what we're doing electronically. It's very stale right now, and, we need to find a way to do all the same, content and element that's here, we need to find a way to do it electronically. But right now, we have a kind of a very stale, sort of system-driven, thank you, you know, but it's very generic. And then we send the mail receipt to the people. There are some people that, you know, would probably prefer to get all of it electronically. And we're not really set up to do that right now, but I think that would be a really good thing to move toward. So that's on my to-do list, and need some help. I need some people to help me. I need to grow my team to do this stuff.
Are you saying you would even email receipts?
Yeah, I think you could do both. I mean, I don't see any reason why we couldn't, especially if they gave electronically.
I have
You know.
some people that said they don't want a monthly receipt.
Yeah, we have that. And so we have a year-end receipt only little category of our list. And so we do a January summary for all of our donors of their previous year's giving. If the donor wants to deduct the gift, which I am sure they want to, they need a physical receipt from the charity if the amount of the overall giving is $250 or more. So we kind of owe a receipt to our donors for anything, really, but for all these other reasons, this is why we need to have a good receipt package. This is something that you can all do well. I would love for us all to be excelling in this, and I think this will add a lot of value to our donor communications. So,
John, quick
yeah,
question. So when you mail the receipt from the gift, do you include all this in the mail?
all this
copy?
stuff, yep.
So mailing.
So there's the receipt and the tear-off piece.
Right.
That drives the envelope. There's the letter,
And just-
and then the testimony, and then sometimes, like, there's a couple of, like, cards in there that are little prayer, that's front and back side of a card that we were gonna be going to China. And so it's a little reminder to pray for what's going on, what's coming up in China. I think those are kind of cool.
That's great. Yeah.
And sometimes we'll take something that maybe we were using with direct mail, and we'll make extras and we'll use it, we'll just insert it in the receipt. You have to be careful it doesn't make the package weigh over an ounce, because then the postage goes up, and that's not cool. So you have to kind of weigh these things, you know, if you're gonna put too much into one package, but that's the kind of stuff that we put in our receipt package. So that's a biggie, receipt solicitation, and then major donor thrust. Identify people with capacity for major giving. An annual involvement plan and schedule face-to-face visits. So yesterday, I challenged you to think through 10 to 20 people that you would think would have the capacity. Well, what we're looking for with major donors are people that have the capacity to give at a major gift level, whatever that means for your ministry. And then they have an affinity for what you do, for evangelism, okay? They got money, they love evangelism, and then ideally, they understand generosity. That's the sweet spot. If you can find somebody that has capacity, affinity, and generosity, those are the people that you want to focus your time and energy on building a relationship with. One thing that's interesting is we can influence a couple of those things. we can influence their affinity for evangelism by sharing why we're so excited about it. Sometimes God can use us in people's lives to give them a vision for evangelism because they're seeing the fruit of it, the impact of it. Sometimes God can use us to inspire people toward generosity because we're giving them a reason to give maybe some more than they've given in the past. Or maybe we can expose them to some teaching from the scriptures or some other people that are modeling generosity. But we can't influence their capacity. That part we don't have much sway. And so I want you to really think through your best 10 to 20 people that you could focus on over the next, say, year to 18 months. And literally, like, put their name on a piece of paper and think through your ministry and what you know about them, and sketch out a game plan on how you're going to build relationship and move these people in relationship over the next year to 18 months. If you did that with a handful of people, that would be huge. And but it takes some thought and some planning. One thing that I would challenge you to consider doing is call a donor a day. It's harder than you think. But if you did that, there's 22 work days a month. You would cover a lot of territory with donors, and it's good. I've kind of fallen out of that discipline, but you know, it's actually a great discipline to have, and you just realize it's like, hey, my work day is getting to the finish line. I haven't talked to a donor today. I'm gonna do it. I get on the phone or whatever, you know, I find somebody and talk to a major donor a day. You know, again, we're trying to kind of get into the lives of these people with major, with the capacity for major giving. We talked about how we try to do 4 touches a year with these people. The first one is just kind of getting acquainted. The second visit, and these are not hard and fast, but you're getting to know the person. The second one could be a fun thing, it could be anything, but you're kind of previewing a project. And you're gonna say at the end of that visit, you know, the next time I come back, or, you know, hey, we've got an outreach coming up in Buenos Aires in 2020. What do you think? Wow, that sounds cool. Well, the next time I'm back, I'd love to talk to you about some specifics related to that. That'd be great. All right, good. You know, or what do you think of Buenos Aires? Haven't you guys done that a million times? Okay, maybe I need to kind of think something else, you know? I mean, so this is how, you're just sort of testing the idea on the second visit. On the third visit, that's when you're gonna come in and you're gonna present, you know, hey, you remember when I was with you last time, I mentioned this Buenos Aires thing? Oh yeah, I brought some stuff I really wanna talk to you about. So here's the plan. Here's where we're headed. Here's the pyramid. I'm hoping you might consider being involved at this middle level. Long pause, see what they say. And then, Lord willing, they're gonna find a place where they can engage in that project. And then the fourth visit is a report back to say, hey, and those are the funnest visits, you know, it's like, it happened. Here's a story, here's some pictures, look what your gift did. Hallelujah, let's celebrate. And then just kind of repeat the cycle the next year. You know, it's not, don't get so caught up in the sequence of it that you don't feel like if you know, projects might come where that's gonna accelerate things. But that's a rhythm for major donor. And so on your best prospects, whatever that is for you, it might be 10, 20, I'm hoping. Kind of write it down, write it on a piece of paper, you know, when am I gonna go see them? What am I gonna talk about? And it forces you, again, to just put it on paper, to kind of think through the strategy that's involved there. So that's the major donor thrust. Annual communication calendar. If you keep going past all the receipt stuff, you'll find, you're gonna find a report we're gonna skip over. You're gonna find data elements for database relationship marketing. We're gonna skip over that, and we're gonna find this grid.
John, quick question.
Yes.
That you might answer later, but it does seem easier to raise money for a project or a trip or a mission
Yes.
versus general support. And I think, you know, some of the guys feels harder to ask for them just to support you than, oh, we're going to Spain, we're going, you know, we're building this thing or whatever. Maybe you can address that a little bit too, just.
Yeah, well, I agree and I disagree. I understand
Yeah,
the personal kind of unsettledness of asking, because it feels like you're asking for yourself.
right, I mean, just,
But you are the ministry.
right,
And if we go back to this principle of people give to people, justified by the cause, that's actually the strongest appeal, is you personally. I know it's hard to sometimes see that,
yeah,
but,
John, because maybe this might relate.
yeah,
So in your budget for project, whatever, say Madrid coming up, you got a budget.
yeah.
In that budget, we haven't talked about what's in the budget. But in the budget, is there, in a sense, compensation? I mean, someone's time or effort for the team? Or is that just expenses incurred, in a sense, of product going, you know, out?
Ooh, okay, you're getting, this is like level 201 or 301 stuff now. That,
Or can you tell us?
yeah, I can tell you, I mean, we do it different ways in different settings. Like all those festival, but like the Madrid proposal I gave you, that was pure direct expenses for Madrid. Those suckers are expensive.
That includes their, however, their staff costs and.
Well, because of Madrid, yeah, we're paying 95% of the freight on that thing.
Right.
Yeah, so that's all direct expenses, and we probably won't raise all that in direct contributions.
Right.
And so we'll take money out of the pull-out general fund to make up whatever difference to do that particular campaign. However, there are some like newer initiatives where we will put personnel costs into the actual proposal. So we're actually saying, hey, and this is often proposals that we're giving to foundations, and we're saying, hey, foundation, you want to help us with this new initiative that we're launching? Well, this is how much staff is working on that. So that can be a hybrid. And then there are times where, we're just asking for Palau generally, and everything's in there. And that's kind of the appeal that we generally make at events. So the good news is all those different methods can work. And, if you're starting out, it might be just a unified budget. It's like, hey, here's what I'm doing over the next 12 months. This is, these are the individual projects, so there's travel and literature costs and, stuff like that. And then there's just my living expenses, my family, and the benefits. And this is the bookkeeper, and here's the office space, and, whatever. And here it is. And then if people want to focus their gift toward Madrid, if Madrid's the project, they can. But what you could just give them is a proposal to say, hey, we're looking to fund, we need $100,000 or $120,000 this year. And we're looking for people to come be a part of that. And certainly give them the opportunity, if they want to designate it for a piece of that, they can. But
Well,
I will say, just like bonding, like if people are giving to you guys as missionaries or evangelists, that is the strongest bonding. That beats project bonding by a mile.
Well, it's kind of like that video, that couple support.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, like, places where, like churches, when money gets tight in the missions program, what goes away first? Projects.
Projects and
Projects.
external outside of the.
Yeah, but those faithful missionaries that are in the budget, that's the last thing that gets cut. And that's the same true with individuals. So, like we have, there's a church in the Bay Area that has been supportive of Luis and Pat Palau as missionaries for 40 years, maybe? 50 years. And so Andrew and Wendy. And so we had a big internal debate about this. About, do we submit like Andrew and Wendy as missionaries, or do we try to approach them about projects, like give them a project budget? And for a variety of reasons, there were a lot of different opinions, like within the team, including Luis, who had some strong opinions. And I talked him out of his opinion, and we went with Andrew and Wendy Palau as missionaries. And they stepped up and are now supporting Andrew and Wendy Palau as missionaries. They'll probably keep supporting Andrew and Wendy Palau as missionaries for the next 30 years, because that's a stronger bond than we could have given them an Andrew and Wendy project somewhere. And then you're also in the project of a thing of having to renew that every single year. That's hard. So I recognize the challenge, but
I'm glad you said something about things.
yeah.
Good.
Yeah, it's a good dialogue.
Yeah.
Very good. Here's this grid. Man, this is pretty simple. I mean, or pretty, not very much detail to it, but you would put your ministry name where I've written the words ministry name, okay? I call it the development communication calendar, and then you're gonna put a year underneath that. See the top two sections that has a bold line underneath it? So the upper portion of this is your ministry calendar. What are you gonna be doing this year? So like if I'm filling this out for Palau, I know in June, the ministry activity is Madrid. And I know February was Ivory Coast. And I know we're going to Wales in July. So anyway, I'm just gonna fill this out. You might have things that you're gonna be doing this year. You might be going to China, when that's gonna be, what month that is, write it in there. Some of you might be ministering at camps or something, And then I also included like your planned travel. Like if you're gonna be traveling to certain places, I wanna see that on there. What I'm getting at is, we're gonna try to communicate about the things that are timely, okay, in our communication calendar. So by looking at this, and I put this is like a crazy year for the Luis Palau Association. The next page is all of our development events that we're doing. This is just fundraising stuff. Hopefully Karen has seen this. Here's where we're going, honey. But these are all fundraising kind of events, but we try to piggyback on what's going on with the ministry. So like if we're gonna be traveling somewhere, then we're gonna try to bring donors, or we're gonna meet with donors if we have donors in a ministry location. So there has to be linkage. We have to be stewards of all of our time. And so we have to pair the ministry schedule with the fundraising schedule. So I'm starting with the ministry schedule across these top two lines. So any events that you guys are participating in or major thrusts that you're doing would be on this top line. And any planned travel that you or other key people are doing, I'd want to just see that. Then you're gonna figure out what your communication calendar is gonna look like for the year. Now, at Palau, we do 12 letters a year. Whoa, that's a lot. We have staff that help get that done. Some of you have not ever done a letter, okay? If you're only gonna do one letter a year, I would have that go in probably late November, because that's the best giving season for this country.
And that goes to all your donors.
Yeah, I mean, we do, like I said, we'll end up actually doing more like 13 maybe or 14 letters, because we'll up the frequency kind of in the last couple of months of the year. When we do our letters inviting people to participate in the ministry, then we also send emails on the same theme at the same time. So the principle here is sort of like what we call integrated direct marketing, where you're trying to bring all the messaging on top of each other. It would be crazy to send a letter out and then have an email go out that has a different topic and theme. If you're saying people are getting the stuff, it's inconsistent. So if you're going to send a letter like we just sent that letter about Madrid that's hitting in people's mailboxes right now. So yesterday we're sending an email to the same people. And the subject line of that email is saying, I just sent you a letter about this, but I have some more information. And in this case, it's like, Luis has decided, I'm going to Madrid. He hinted at it in the letter, but since we mailed the letter, he's decided he's going. So this is kind of an important email. But they both reinforce each other. So if you've got that letter sitting at home and you get the email, you might be triggered to say, oh, I'm going to read that letter. That reminds me, I remember we got that. Or you might have already read the letter and you've decided to give, but you haven't given the gift yet, and here's the link that's right in your email, and it says, click here to give now. So I might use the email to facilitate the gift that the letter already inspired me. Or maybe there's, the video, this particular email that we're sending out has a video embedded in it of Luis. So now you're getting like, oh wow, I'm gonna get to hear like personally from Luis like why he's going to Madrid. That adds, you might add some fresh information that could give people another reason to give. And then some of you have social media. I know you don't do any of that. Social media?
We do.
Yeah, no, I know you do. Same message, right? I mean, we're just trying to layer things on this. So we got the letter, we got the mail, we got the email, we got social media, and then sometimes with the right, subset of your list, you might throw a phone call on top of it.
So,
There's more strength when you have all these things hitting at the same time. So this is the tool here to help you plot out your whole year. Now, things happen. you know, projects pop out of nowhere sometimes. This is not a straitjacket, it's just a framework for you to work from. And we constantly are changing. We have it plotted out, and then we get in a room, it's Jay Fordyce and I again, and it's like, okay, what are we really gonna do? Because things change, and here's the other thing about mailings. Hardest thing to do in development is to get a direct mail letter done and on time. It's hard. And we miss our dates frequently at Palau. And so we actually, like, where it says mail, like if I know I did a Madrid letter in May, and then I would put the date I want the letter to drop in the mail on here. So it was 5/24. And then you try to hit that. But if you miss the deadline by like weeks, well, that might mean I'm now, you know, we might be pushing, like, we can't do that project because there's not enough time for us to get a letter produced and out the door and in someone's mailbox, and they need time to read it and respond. What did I say yesterday? When a festival's over, it's over. So sending a letter to someone for a festival that's already over and asking them to give to that festival is a very bad idea. So, you know, this is kind of just a tool for you to frame it. So you'd write, when do you want to do your mailings? When do you want to do the emails? I have not tested this enough to know for sure, but I like to have the mail piece arrive first, then the email, like within a couple of days. That's hard when you're mailing across the entire United States. And we send our letters out bulk rate, so they have much slower delivery. So we just kind of pick a date where it sort of feels like it would make sense. Most of our donors are in the West, and we know it's not going to be perfect. But there's a way for you to schedule those things. We do a couple of newsletters a year. Our newsletter has lots of pictures. It's a magazine, actually. I try to send that in early October, could be all the way to the end of October, but I want to have implanted in their mind a picture of God's hand is on this ministry. I want them to see it. And so that's why I send that out then, and then we follow it up with a couple of letters between then and the end of the year. So if you're going to be good at any certain time of the year, you want to be good at the end of the year. You want to hit those deadlines. So I get a little more intense with everybody about, we're going to hit these. We can kind of skate around here in March, you know, but like when we get into this season at the end of the year, and last year it cost me a lot of money because I had to send a letter first class, and that probably tripled the cost of the mailing because we weren't going to hit the deadline, and the delivery slows down at the end of the year. Development events, maybe you're planning a banquet or a get-together with some donors in a certain part of the country. Again, that's why I have it linked to your travel schedule. We try to do this all the time. Luis and Andrew get invited to speak in places. And so we will try to piggyback onto that and do a little donor gathering. If we have enough donors in a certain city, we'll try to pull them together. And so again, there's some travel that's specific for fundraising, but a lot of what we're doing is trying to maximize the ministry travel and then kind of attaching a fundraising dimension to it on the backside. So this would be a piece that I would love to have you really think about, and that would be part of kind of like this development plan that we've talked about. Kind of having a layout for your next 12 months, I think would be really good there. Monthly giving is something I really encourage that you try to help facilitate for your people. The beautiful thing about getting people to commit to give monthly is you don't need to ask them for money now all the time. We don't send those monthly partners 12 solicitation letters a year. They just get a gift card and a thank you, and they've already made their commitment. So we're just showing them how their gifts are bearing fruit. And you can market monthly giving both actively and passively. Actively means you're sending letters to people.
We are unable to take your call right now. Please leave a message and we will get back.
So you can write, have you considered supporting our ministry monthly on the actual receipt? You can put a little insert in the receipt. You can put that as an option on your direct mail reply card. So here's my gift of X for Madrid, and then a little subset. I'd like to begin supporting the ministry monthly to enclose as my first monthly gift. You can do it on the web. You can do it on the email. Those are all like ways where you're just piggybacking on other things that you're already doing, but suggesting people support the ministry monthly. New name acquisition and conversion. Getting names, however you can. Getting names with email addresses is easier than getting names with mailing addresses. If you can get them all, that's the big win. And what we do is we have a combination of emails and mailings that we send to new names at LPA. We send it rapidly after we get the name. If the name has come from them hearing, let's say, Luis or Andrew speak somewhere, that's kind of a fresh memory for them. And generally they're thinking, hey, I liked that guy. I like what he had to say. And so we go back to them pretty quickly and ask them to consider making a gift to LPA. We had one example, a recent example I had of this was Luis was invited to speak at a large church in Palm Desert, California, Southwest Community Church. And this was 2 years ago. And Colin James, who was assisting Luis with that trip, asked the church if he could put something in the bulletin about the Palau ministry. And so we put just a little card in there, and if people wanted to receive a copy of one of Luis's messages, we put a couple of suggested messages in there, fill out the card. And Luis was also, I think, going to sign books, after the service, and so people could turn the card in with the offering or bring the card to put where he was selling books. And we got, I'm going to say, maybe close to 100 names from that church. And so we mailed the letters out to those people, and we got some gifts back pretty quickly. And then we actually phoned through that list, and we had a good number of people that made commitments after the phone call. And one of them was a guy we got a gift from a foundation. And it turns out this foundation is based in St. Louis, Missouri, but the guy winters in Palm Desert, California, which lots of people do that. And now we have a regional field rep that works in Southern California, and so she's gone and had coffee with this family, and now they're probably going to come to one of our major donor weekends. So it's a good illustration of how getting a name, inviting the name to get on board with the ministry, and staying with it can maybe lead to a major gift. We'll see. I think they've given maybe 2 or 3 gifts of a few $100s. So data management, segmentation, and measurement. We have to keep records of stuff. And these are some things that I recommend. The reports that I've attached kind of give you some of the data on that. but we try to measure how many new names we're getting every year, how many new donors we're getting every year, how many donors that gave last year continue to give, how many donors gave more this year than they did last year, how many donors that gave last year didn't give this year, and we wish it was lower. How many people gave 2 years ago and have not given since, and how many donors we've gotten back after they had not given in the previous year. Those are some basic donor measurements that we use. And then finally, and I'm glad this is here, we started a day talking about prayer, and I'm going to close it by talking about prayer. All this stuff needs the Lord's hand for breakthroughs. And so we need to ask for His wisdom, for His anointing, and His favor in all of this. So I hope that is helpful. There's a lot there.
There is.
Too much, way more than you can do.
I so appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Questions for John?
Yeah.
I would like to ask
Yes, sir.
how you have been faring on in internet fundraising. I've seen sites which generate a lot of traffic and which results into revenue through advertisements.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Bishop, you know, Daily Post in Kenya, they're making
Daily Post.
$3,000 per month. Nation Media, $10,000 per month.
Wow.
Because they are generating a lot of traffic, people visiting the site. And now I'm asking myself, allow being a big organization with big followers, what have you been doing to generate income or revenue through those internet traffic?
Yeah.
Maybe also through selling t-shirts, capes, other products?
Yeah. Very, very, very little.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that it's not possible for our ministry to do more selling products and things. I mean, Luis has written, I think, about 40 books. I don't think any of them have set the world on fire, you know, with product sales. I mean, we have a new book that's coming out like in 3 weeks. But we're kind of at the point now, actually, where we're just sending people to Amazon to buy the books. You know, we're not trying to sell the books and make a profit off of it. That's just us. There are whole ministries that like focus on the family for many, many years. The majority of their revenue came from product sales. Okay, what I know is inspirational fundraising.
So,
Which
John,
is,
I guess to what degree, or I don't know if you thought the process of, how does the fundraising fit or flow out of, in a sense, your ministry?
Yeah.
Because there you give example, here's one that's producing products, product is knowledge.
Right,
teaching,
yes,
So they get revenue.
yeah. Well, this is the
Product
hardest
people.
thing. Yeah, this is the hardest thing about a call to evangelism.
You're the product.
Well, yeah, but the people we minister to is the lost.
Right.
They don't relate to the cause.
Right.
Preaching to the converted.
So it's very, very difficult.
Right.
Why is it hard? You know, I'm sorry if Tim promised that this was going to be easy for everybody. You know, I know he didn't. I'm kidding, but that's you know, like our funding strategy at Palau has come largely out of Luis's building relationships with people that have the capacity to give significantly, you know, and he's just been blessed by, you know, I remember like one of our board members, for 25-year board member, he met like at a drinking fountain, you know, at a church in Dallas, Texas, that Luis was invited to speak at. And they just started talking. And then the guy said, why don't you come over to the house? Luis went over to the house. and it was a good house. And they became friends, and he invited this guy to be on his board, where they met at the drinking fountain. You know, I mean, so the other place where Luis met a lot of our really solid donors was Bible conferences where he would speak. There's a bunch of them in the West Coast, Mount Hermon, Cannon Beach Conference Center. Those are the two big ones. We went with them to Forest Home about 2 years ago, which is one in Southern California. And, you know, it was good that we were there because we were working hard to kind of build relationships with people that were hearing Luis teach all week long. And we've acquired, I think, 3 major donors that came from that 1 week of teaching at the Bible conference. So that's part of like how the funding strategy flows out of our ministry. And we have not explored, we're not a great example of the web and social media piece of it. I think that there's no question that digital is growing in terms of just how people like to transact their life. And so we're getting, but we're not getting, it's not climbing like a rocket ship, the amount of gifts that we're getting through digital. And I don't know of really any evangelical Christian groups that are setting the world on fire with their fundraising via
Right.
digital.
So Bishop T.D. Jakes, 40% of his total income for the church comes through internet.
Okay,
So, but, you know,
that's
He has
huge.
Huge TV presence, though.
he, huge presence in every kind of arena. Secular also.
Yeah.
He does a lot of secular type stuff, which brings believers in, and more so, non-believers that believe in him.
Yeah,
Oprah Winfrey supports him. She is not a believer,
right.
you know, but a lot of her, and he's pushed past that whole only preach to Christian, or he's like, no, she's unsaved. What do you mean? She's opened her financial window to me. I'm going.
Oh, absolutely.
Sony has promised $100,000 or whatever, like 10 movies to him. Sony is not a saved organization, but they have given a certain amount of money per year for him to make 10 movies.
Mm.
So there's all kinds, so it is possible, is all I'm saying. But there's a lot of, he's everywhere. He hasn't pigeonholed.
Yeah, his congregation
So
is like the whole USA, the whole world, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's probably getting money from outside the US too.
And he's
So,
got 5 campuses now. And, yeah, and so all but one of them are self-sustaining. It's a different thing, I just wanted to show you.
it needs to be a part of our portfolio for sure. And in my, you know, kind of the fundraising world, it's both and, you know. The digital is not a silver bullet that's gonna kind of like fuel our ministries, but it needs to be a part of our communication mix for sure.
So here's a question.
Yes.
Nothing I have ever done,
Huh.
because it kind of goes against everything that I've learned from you over the years. But we've had a few team members, not on staff, but people go on a mission trip with us,
Uh-huh.
that they're fundraising a portion of, probably half in 2 instances, came from doing a GoFundMe page.
Oh, yeah.
For a project.
Mm-hmm.
What is your thought on that? That's not how we need to be raising
I think it's good.
organizational support.
I think, you know, that's really the power of relationships, because people that are giving to that are people that know them.
Mhm.
And so it's people give to people, justified by the cause. It's a way for them to kind of easily like message that to their network, and it gives them a goal and a reason. And I got one yesterday from a guy in the way that he phrased it was, click here to see how much I've raised and who's supporting me. The who's supporting me part of it was kind of like curious. It's sort of like, okay, I want to be a worthwhile member of a worthwhile group. It's like, I might want to be a part of that. People that are sending Lane to Uganda, you know? So that was sort of like curious, you know, that kind of like raised my curiosity a little bit. But I'm okay with it. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything to worry about that. Sometimes I want to try to build a relationship though with the donor.
Mhm.
But mission team giving is so much about the person going. Like mission team donors to Palau, like people that came on a mission team, you know, and somebody from this church was gonna go, and so they raised a bunch of, you know, like, let's say $1,000 that came to Palau for their thing. And then if I go back to those people and say, support Luis Palau Association, very low conversion rate to LPA. Why? Well, because they weren't really giving to LPA. They were giving to the person, and it could have been any ministry, you know, and we might get somebody that would say, yeah, I've always wanted to learn more about Palau or something, but that would be very rare. So these GoFundMe things are more about the person, you know, what they're all about. So I think it's good. I think it can be good. And there's certain like online platforms that you can subscribe to that really do a great job of like empowering people to do that. You know, there are some groups that have done a lot with that.
I was just saying that GoFundMe last year got me to Africa.
Really?
I got totally funded through GoFundMe, through friends, and through a couple of anonymous people, but.
Yeah, it's a good method.
Well, John, we thank you. I don't wanna keep you past
Thank you,
11,
Tim.
because you gotta go to,
Hey,
get to a place.
awesome to get to meet all of you.